yeah, you can eat 5 kgs worth of bakery food and nothing happens. I sniff too hard when I walk past the bakery, I'll put 3 kgs on. It's like intermittent fasting for these guys, if you want to drop weight, that's the way to do it. Long distance running, ultra marathons, all that type of stuff, your bodies are just built for it, man. The PH360 does is allow me to determine one of 6 types of health types that this person is. Criminals make awesome activators. They don't think about the consequences, they just jump straight into it. So man, that car looks awesome, think I'll go for a drive. All of a sudden they're in real big trouble. Hey, look, thank you very much for coming along tonight. Yeah, I'm pretty bloody excited about what we're about to present. My name is Phil. I'm one of the workers here at World Fitness. I say I'm one of the workers, but I don't do much here. I just kind of walk around and point fingers a lot of the time. I got into what is essentially, this is PH360. The PH stands for personalized health. Okay, so I got into this about 7 or 8 years ago, studied it for 5 years, and it is freaking incredible. Like, it completely flipped the way that I looked at things, not just as a personal trainer, as a gym manager, as a gym owner, but also as a person. This stuff here can completely flip the way that you kind of see yourself. Hopefully I'm giving you a little bit more information so you're really clear and you have a bit more of an understanding on you. So, big focus, try and help you guys understand why you are the way that you are. All right, personalized health science. This stuff's been going on for a long, long time. Okay, so we know that people are different. This guy here is not going to be running a marathon, eh? Yeah, this girl here is probably not going to be lifting, or is probably not going to be a power lifter. Okay, so visually looking at people, we do it all of the time. It happens all of the time. It's been happening for years. We innately kind of do that anyway. Okay, you can kind of look at somebody and go, oh man, that guy's 7'4", he must be a basketball player. Or he must be a volleyball player. And 9 times out of 10, you go and talk to them and, hey, do you play basketball? Yeah, I do. What gave it away? Yep, so that's kind of what we're looking at with the personalized health, all right? We innately already in our lives look at people and start making assumptions about what they more than likely do based on what we call their phenotype or what they look like. First of all, help you understand why you are the way that you are, and then once you understand that, the next question for most people, and the reason why most people come to a gym or try to change something in their lives is because they're looking for their optimal, or essentially they're trying to achieve a goal. And that's to try and almost, it's like trying to be better than what you are right now. And when it comes to PH360, we've got a far greater chance, once you understand how it works, of reaching your optimal. Okay, and it's optimal health and well-being is essentially or the way that I look at it. That's what most people are after. So how do we measure that? Genetics, all right? So we got mum, we got dad, they make us, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, that's just the way that I am. This is me right now. I've got genetics from my mum and dad. There's the environment and the lifestyle that I live in, and that equals me right now. So what percentage do you think the genetics has on the influence?
60.
50? 60? Somebody say 5? Yeah, it's 5. It's about 5% of your genetic or of your makeup is really determined by your genetics. Epigenetics is anything above or below your genetics. And that is essentially all of these other factors, which is the environment and the lifestyle. Believe it or not, the environment that you live in and the lifestyle that you live has a way bigger influence on the phenotype that you are right now. Does that change? Yeah, if I'm 18, like I'm almost 50 now, my body definitely doesn't look like it looked when I was 18, all right? So your phenotype over time changes. Do the genetics change? No. No, they don't really change. Okay, so the only thing of this equation here that influences the phenotype is what? That we've truly got any kind of control over is the environment and the lifestyle. What PH360 does is allow me to determine one of 6 types of health types that this person is based on how they look in front of me. Okay, and then I've got a fairly good gauge of whether the environment's good for them and the lifestyle's good for them. And in the environment, and the lifestyle, there are certain factors that really influence how we look and feel. Yeah, would we all agree on that? Awesome. Just because you're like mum's Nigerian, dad's Nigerian, Nigerians have amazing freaking bodies as a general rule. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have an amazing body if you eat shit food, or you hang out with shit people, or you live in a space that's not really conducive to you, or you're not getting outdoors enough, or you're not exercising enough. All of these factors here have a real influence on how your phenotype looks. But all of us are trying to reach our optimal, and there's at least another 6 factors there that we need to consider. It just so happens that we live in a world of social media, not that I spend a lot of time on it, but my kids do, where literally all you see is this, and you might see a little bit of the food, and it's thrown heaps on social media. And so basically we've created a system, or we've created a process where most people look at those 2 factors as the most important. They're pretty bloody important, but they're not everything. All right, genotype alone isn't adequate. So remember that formula we had: genetics plus epigenetics, the environment and the lifestyle equals you, your phenotype. All right, so looking at these 2 people here, would you recommend the same exercise for them? Do you think they're on the same meal plans? No? Okay. Do you think genetics plays a part in these 2 people? Like the reason why she's the size that she is, and the reason why she's the size that genetics doesn't play a part? Would it freak you out to say that those 2 they're identical twins? The genotype in these 2 people, the genetics are exactly the same. But the phenotype, the way that they look, is not the same, right? Yeah, so the environment and the lifestyle is obviously, don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that it's completely different for these 2. Again, just to hammer home the point, the phenotype, if we go back to the equation where we've got genetics plus environment and lifestyle equals your phenotype. Okay, we're going to take that equation and flip it around a little bit, and I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. So now, this is saying the phenotype is key. What you see in front of you is the most important thing. It gives you a pretty clear view into the window of what this person needs and what this person needs. Exercise-wise, nutrition-wise, socially, food-wise, sleep-wise, stress. We need to start looking at that type of stuff. Essentially, we've got people who are like long and lean in this world. We've got people who are a little bit shorter in stature, probably a little bit more muscular than average, and then we've got people who are a little bit more big boned, is what we'd probably call it. So there's 3 types. There's an ectomorph, a mesomorph, and an endomorph. And again, we're looking at the phenotypes. Now we're starting to go back, we're reversing that equation. Let's start looking at what people kind of look like, and then we can start making fairly solid assumptions / this is going to make it pretty easy for me to now determine what sort of exercise I should be doing, what sort of food I should be eating, when I should be eating it. Like the chronology, the timing is really, really important. And once you understand what that body shape is, then it relates to a specific hormone. What it means, or what the science tells us, is that that body shape will determine or will dominate in a specific hormone. And if you know much about physiology, hormones are everything. They basically dictate how your life will roll. Okay, but essentially we're going to get into a bit more about the body types and what they look like, and then what hormone dominates, and therefore what kind of reaction you can expect to get out of each of the 6 health types. Okay, so all of these lines running from sensor to diplomat to crusader, they won't mean too much at the moment, but essentially what this is doing is, if we seriously get into this, there's like a score or a rating score once we do an assessment, and it gives me a real clear indicator of where you kind of sit in the wheel. And the wheel starts from 0, goes to 360. The scores are relevant. It basically just tells me where you are. Okay, and then it allows us to start looking at priorities and what's really, really important in your life, and what we need to address so that you can reach your optimal. If you dominate as a diplomat, there's still the possibility that you could have connected traits or like sensory type traits. Okay, say for example, if we do an assessment and you're a diplomat, but you slide down here, then you're more than likely going to have sensory traits as opposed to guardian or connected traits. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's a very quick overview of the 6 health types. We've got a gymnast and we've got a CrossFitter. Okay, if as a general rule, have you seen a 7-foot CrossFitter? 6'2" maybe is probably the tallest I've ever seen. Yep, but as a general rule, they're all about 4 or 5 foot, not much. Yeah, okay, gymnast, same thing. Have you seen a 6-foot gymnast? Don't exist, don't really belong in the sport. Yeah, they're not, or they're also, their body types are not really conducive to the sport as well. Okay, so now straight away we're taking a body type that's like right in front of us and going, oh, it's not right for that sport, or it's not right for this kind of activity. Okay, so activators, as a general overview, activators, the dominant hormone is testosterone. Okay, testosterone, man, it's all about risk. Like, man, I'm going to do it now and I'll figure out whether it was right or wrong later on, but I'm doing it right now. Okay, they're on the go all of the time. They're up for the challenges. If there's a challenge, they're the first person trying to knock the door down to try and get into that challenge. I want to be the first. They're the real annoying people, probably in class. They're like, oh, pick me. And they love competition. If there's any kind of challenge or competition going on, they're balls deep in it, want it. All right, these guys make incredible firemen. They make incredible AMBO service people. They don't think they just get straight into action. Okay, and the general kind of activator or rule for them is like they do first and they think later. Criminals make awesome activators. They don't think about the consequences. They just jump straight into it. So, man, that car looks awesome. Think I'll go for a drive. All of a sudden, they're in real big trouble. And you've got all of this energy that needs to go out. If it's given out in the wrong way, then, yeah, man, crime is a real thing. So as a general rule, if you want to be awesome at CrossFit, then you're well ahead of the bell curve if you are that body shape. If you're 5 foot, not much. Yeah, all of the strongest men in the world, or CrossFit guys, women, they're all 5 foot, not a hell of a lot. All right, let's move to the other side. This is the second one, and they're the diplomats. Okay, so diplomats, the dominant hormone is serotonin. Does anybody know what serotonin kind of does or how it affects the body? Yeah, so if you've got serotonin in your body, you're doing something that makes you feel good. All right, so serotonin, man, we're procrastinators. If it's really sunny outside and I've got work to do inside, I'm going outside because it just feels better. 3 meals a day will do you. Okay, if you miss a breakfast, that's kind of okay. Okay, a longer fast, like intermittent fasting for these guys, if you want to drop weight, that's the way to do it. Just when you break that fast, the food needs to be pretty controlled. And when I say controlled, the other thing with these guys here, you're okay with vegetarian. Vegetarian meals are way better for these guys. Okay, we have a slower digestive system. This is getting a little bit more into the science. So because there are a lot of diplomats in the room, if you were to look at dropping down or dropping a little bit of weight, then going vegetarian would not hurt. Okay, where I'm a massive meat eater, love protein, but I'm not saying there's a lot of muscle mass on me, but I'm a big person, I don't need too much more protein. Okay, as a general rule, if you're really, really tiny, that would be recommended that you take a supplement and take protein powder, all right, to get bigger. That's fair, because you don't have much muscle. These guys have always got a lot of muscle, and if it's not muscle, then it's fat. Okay, so there's a lot of protein built up there. The other thing is that our digestive system is the weakest organ in our body. It's the weakest part of our body. So you throw meat in there, and it would normally take 3 days to digest. For us, 4 to 5. So it's just sitting in there rotting. Okay, if you go into a vegetarian diet, man, when you eat most vegetables, they're already broken down. If you mash them, even when you roast them, by the time you've chewed them and then digested them, they're pretty much the goodness is into your body. It's out of your digestive system. It's out the gate, and you've got the goodness out of them, and they don't store in the body. Okay, the dominant hormone in Crusaders is dopamine. Does anybody know what dopamine hormone, what it does to the body, or what reaction you get with plenty of dopamine? Dopamine is, it's like the reward type system going on there. Okay, so most Crusaders as a general rule are really, really high achievers. So they'll set a goal and they'll just complete tunnel vision and they'll keep going with that goal. These guys are driven by rewards. They're driven by achieving. Okay, and it's the dopamine that causes that. That's what causes the high, which is what somebody just said, is dopamine gives you that high. Okay, these guys, Crusaders, will work for that high. A little bit the same as the diplomats, but even more so the endurance, long distance running, ultra marathons, all that type of stuff. Your bodies are just built for it, man. It just goes and goes and goes. And again, it's that whole dopamine kind of thing. I'm going to set myself the goal of running from one side of the South Island to the other side of the South Island, and I won't stop until it's done. High carbs. Yep, pretty active. Okay, the other dominant thing that runs through the Crusaders is the brain. These guys are always freaking thinking. which is, yeah, it's really, really hard to turn off sometimes, / now all of a sudden sleep becomes a real problem. The dominant, so when we go back to the diplomat, the dominant sort of area of the body is the digestive system. For the ectomorphs, through these guys here, it's the brain. Like it saps the most amount of energy out of the body. So there's another guy that I work with, Reese, really good friend of mine. He's long, lean. That guy could pretty much eat whatever the hell he wanted, and he would not put on weight. I don't know if that resonates with you guys. You could pretty much eat whatever the hell you want, and it just doesn't matter. And as a general rule, that's because the brain saps the most amount of energy, and of all of the health types, these two use the brain the most. Okay, so that's just sapping a lot of energy, so you can just keep swallowing food, and it just doesn't show. I was like, that's really unfair. Like, yeah, you can eat 5 kgs worth of bakery food and nothing happens. I sniff too hard when I walk past the bakery, I'll put 3 kgs on. Okay, and now we've got the guardians. The guardians are like the extreme opposite, okay? Pretty long, pretty lean, just pretty massive. Most guardians are just full of prolactin. That's the dominant hormone, and they just love to be around people. So again, for guardians, it's prolactin. They conserve and they protect. They're okay just sort of leaning back and just taking everything in their stride. Okay, that's not a body that is likely to move real fast. Okay, it is built to pick up real heavy shit and throw it around. General, that's what works for these guys. Pick up real heavy stuff and move it. And slow cardio. Vegetarians, that's the way to go. And lower in protein and lower in carbs. That body doesn't need protein. Does not need any more carbs. It's already big. Okay, these guys here, myself included, most diplomats, got to be really, really careful about what we eat. Yeah, and what we put in our tummies, because, yeah, cardiovascular disease is a real thing. Okay, that's taking this like nobody really came here to learn about that stuff, but these are real things. We're not lying. These are your genetics, and this is your makeup. Noradrenaline is a general rule. It's kind of like a stress hormone. Okay, so have you heard of the fight or flight response? Yeah, cool. You'll either stay there and have a scrap, or you're like, nah, too much for me, I'm out. Okay, as a general rule, senses, is that a body type, or is that a body type that's going to stand there and have a fight? Nope, they're gone. Okay, it's the flight response as a general rule for these guys. But yeah, they're just what we call slow gainers. It's really, really hard for them to get any kind of gains. Then they get sick for a week with the flu and they drop all of that weight. They drop like 4 or 5 kgs. I see it all of the time. It's like, oh man, that's painful. So when it comes to like the gym environment and these guys going, hey man, can you make me look like The Rock? Nope, I can't. The closest we can get to is give them realistic kind of options, but also tell them that if they get sick or if they stay off the training, man, they're going to lose the gains. It's very, very hard. Just like for these guys to lose weight is very, very hard. For these guys to gain weight is very, very hard. It's the reverse. They're on the other side of the wheel. Dominant hormone is oxytocin. Does anybody know what oxytocin is? Oxytocin is like the love hormone. It's like when you connect with people in a certain way, and to get that connection, to feel oxytocin, if you stare at somebody in the eyes from a really close sort of distance, it happens. So I don't like to say it, but the easiest way for me to do it is once you've done stuff with somebody that you're really, really close to, and when you're finished, there's like this, that's oxytocin. Exercise, anything, at most times of the day. All right, the real problem for connectors is the food. Okay, trying to get that. So as a general rule, your body will want to exercise. You'll want to do, as a connector, you'll want to do some sort of exercise. That's just an innate thing that you want to do. Okay, and it will happen. It's the food normally that gives you a bit of a kick in the backside. Okay, so you just got to be really careful with your carbohydrates. And make things sociable and fun. And what I mean by that is doing things by yourself is just doesn't really float your boat. Diplomats, guardians are the same. They'd rather do it in a group. So that's like basically it. That's an overview of each of the health types, and there's a lot of information there. And what I normally do is then go into an individual basis and go, all right, cool, as a diplomat, there are what we call priorities, and there are 6 priorities. And when those priorities are in order, you've got a far greater chance of reaching your optimal. That's us. Done. There's no other questions. Thank you very much for tolerating me. I love this stuff. It's relevant, which is why I love it. Because yeah, this is just a very quick kind of touch point on what it is, as opposed to how it can fix, or how it can fix you. Otherwise, thank you very much for coming along. Cheers. No worries.